Continuing in our main topic of percents, we're going to look at part 2 of working with percentage problems. Our objective in this video, we want to solve percentage problems, and we're going to be using the percentage formula. So there are a couple ways to do it. This video is going to show you a first way, which is using the percentage formula. All right, let's talk again. Let's start with what we know. Okay, we know from part 1 that percent problems involve 3 quantities: the portion, or the part, the base, or the whole, and the rate, or the percent. And so solving a percentage problem essentially means that you will know 2 of these, and you'll have to find the third one. The second thing we know, which is going to come into play, we saw this, this was in a previous video on percents, is that when we write a percent as a decimal number, we first replace the percent symbol, which looks like this, with a denominator of 100, and then we divide. And we know that dividing by 100 results in moving the decimal 2 places to the right. So we're going to need the decimal form in order to do the math. So that's why I have this number 2 for what we know. Okay, what is the percent formula? The percent formula tells us simply that the portion is equal to the rate times the base. Okay, so down here, portion is equal to the rate. Now notice the important piece here. We're going to rewrite that rate. We're going to rewrite that percent as a decimal, which is why we talked about how we know this from a previous video. And we're going to multiply that by the base. So P equals R times B. That formula is going to be applied in every single one of these examples. All right, let's do a couple of straightforward examples just with numbers, and then a couple of examples of word problems to see how this works. Okay, example 1. 20% of 400 is what number? Okay, I'm going to first jot down, I know I have 3 parts, so let's go up here a little bit. I know that my percent problems involve 3 parts: a portion, a base, and a rate. So let's see here. I've got a portion, I've got a base, and I've got a rate. Okay, well, 20% is clearly, it's pretty easy to find the percentage, the rate. 20% is here, that's the rate, 20%. Okay, of 400, well, 400 is the number we're looking at. We know that the base, or the whole, often follows the preposition of. 400 is our base, and we know that our portion, or our part, often follows, sometimes precedes, the verb is. Is what number? This is our unknown. So we want to note those 3 things. Now we're going to use this formula. We need our rate to be a decimal. Well, we know that 20%, to write it as a decimal number, we first replace the percentage sign with the denominator of 100. So it's 20 over 100. And then we know that we then divide. Dividing by 100 is the same as multiplying the decimal, is the same as moving the decimal 2 places to the left. Oh, looks like I'm dividing. Looks like I made a mistake up here. We want to move it 2 places to the left. Sorry about that. Got a mistake right up here. Results in moving the decimal 2 places to the left. The decimal is here. 20 divided by 100 moves it 2. And so we know our decimal is 0.20. Okay, so sorry about my mistake up here. We want to, when we divide by 100, we move it 2 places to the left. 1, 2. Okay, and an unknown, of course, we can replace with a variable, and let's replace this with the variable x. That's the thing we do not know. Here's our formula. Portion equals rate times base. So let's fill in. Our portion we don't know, x. Our rate as a decimal we do know. Our rate is 0.2 or 0.20. And our base we know is 400. Oops, I'm almost lost my sheet. And so I can now solve this, and x is equal to 2/10 times 400. I'm going to pull out a calculator for that because I'm not positive at the moment. So let's see here. I want to do 2/10 times 400, and I come up with the answer of 80. Okay, so x is 80. So the example, 20% of 400 is what number? 20% of 400 is 80. Okay, let's look at another example, again, just using numbers. So example number 2. 20% of what number is 60? Okay, so first we want to define our three quantities. We have, I'll list them this time as a rate, the base, and the portion. I may not be in the same order, but that doesn't matter, as long as you list those three things. Our rate is 20%, and we already know that that needs to be done as a decimal, and I think I used 20% back here. I did, and so I already know that as a decimal. That's 0.20 or 0.2. So I'm going to come over to here and just go ahead and note that this is the same as 0.20 because we're going to need to use it as a decimal. Is 60? Well, the number 60 in this case is following the word is, and usually what that tells you is that 60 is the portion or the part. Of what number? So of, we don't know. The base is the unknown as it follows the preposition of. And we're going to let this be our x. Okay, so we know from our percent formula, that the portion equals the rate times the base. So let's fill in what we know. We know the portion is 60. We're going to put in the rate as a decimal. The rate is 20%, which is 0.2 or 0.20. And the base here is our unknown. So there's our x. Okay, solving for x in this case, it's being multiplied by 2/10, so I'll divide both sides by 2/10. 2/10 divided by 2/10 is the number 1, and 1 times x just gives me an x on the right, and 60 divided by 2/10, that's going to require for me my calculator. So I'm going to go into here, 60 divided by 2/10, and I came up with 300 as the answer. Okay, so put my paper back, excuse me for a second. Okay, 20% of what number is 60? Well, 20% of the number 300, 20% of this base is 60. 60 out of 300 is equal to 20%. Okay, we'll do one more. I'm looking at percent, and I'll throw a couple of pieces in this one that you're going to want to be aware of in case, as we talk about it. This one's going to have a couple of small nuances to it. 48 is what percent of 24? Okay. Again, I'm going to do rate, base, and portion. Okay, this one says what percent? So I don't know the rate. So that's my unknown, which we'll call x. Okay, in this case the 48 precedes the verb is, but that indicates to me sometimes it does precede. So 48 is the portion. And the number 24 follows the word of, and we know that almost always indicates that this is the base. So 24 is the base. Okay, now, you'll notice in this case, the portion, the part, is actually larger than the whole, or the portion is larger than the base. And that can happen sometimes. If you've gone above and beyond, for example, you've done more than the whole, then you're going to wind up with a percent that's greater than 100. So we want to be aware that this is possible. The portion, many students get into this habit of thinking that the portion is always the smaller of the two numbers. That's not always the case. It depends upon the problem. Okay, it's often the case that the portion is smaller than the base, or the part is smaller than the whole, but not always. Okay, let's use our formula. P equals RB. Okay, portion is 48. Remember, your rate is as a decimal. Okay, so I'm going to put X in for my rate, but it's a decimal. Okay, when this formula is used, the rate's a decimal, and the base is 24. So here's my percent formula. Divide both sides by 24 to solve for X. 24 divided by 24 is 1. 48 divided by 24 is 2. So X is 2. But this is the rate as a decimal. To make it into a percent, we need to multiply it by 100. So, okay, to change to percent, multiply by 100. So we have X is equal to 2 times 100, and the answer is 200%. Okay? Again, that's important to keep in mind, and that when you're, so important to keep in mind that when your rate is in here, the rate in here is a decimal, the decimal equivalent of the percent. If you're looking for the percent, you need to multiply by 100, which we know, of course, is the same as moving the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay, so 48 is what percent of 24? 48 is 200% of 24. It's larger than 24. The portion is larger than the base, which tells you it's greater than 100. So 200 fits. 48 is 200% of 24. Okay, I'm going to do 2 more examples, and we're going to look at these. I get my paper straightened out. We're going to look at examples that are word problems. So let's see, example 4, I believe we're on. Okay, I think that's correct. Yes. All right, so during a one-day sale, $600 people bought the on-sale pizza. Of these customers, 20% used coupons. Okay. How many people used coupons? Or how many, customers, people, I'm using the same word here. How many people, how many customers use coupons? Okay, so during a one-day sale, 600 people or 600 customers bought the on-sale pizza. Of these customers, 20%, looks like I used 20% several times, 20% use coupons. How many of these people use coupons? Okay, what you get, you're going to have to interpret a little bit. Okay, so we've got to, we're not being told exactly what's the rate, what's the portion, what's the base. We have to do some interpretation here to come up with that. Okay, well, we can certainly see that we know the rate. So we can, usually the rate, when you're given the percent, that's pretty quick to come up with. So the rate is 20%. We know that that is equivalent to 20 divided by 100. We drop the percent symbol, divide by 100. We know if we do the division, 20 divided by 100. The result of that is moving the decimal place two places to the decimal 2 places to the left, and we come up with 0.20. So we're going to use that 20 as in our percent formula. Okay, now we still need the base and the portion. And we have one more number, it's just number 600. Is it the base or the portion? Well, let's see here. 600 people bought the on-sale pizza. And then it does say of these customers. Well, these are so we still have the word of coming into play here, of these customers. Well, these customers are these 600 people. Of these 600 people, of these customers. So we can go from there that 600 is going to be our base. Okay, in that case, the portion is how many people use the coupons. So our portion is our unknown. It's the part of the 600 that use coupons, because they didn't all use coupons. How many did? 20% use coupons. What was that? What part of the 600 was that? This is our unknown, and that's the X. So the word of does come into play here, helping you out. But you also need to know, well, you could also interpret 20% use coupons. How many use coupons? Well, the number of used coupons is not greater than the number of people. We're not going to have more people use coupons than there were people. So we can infer from that the portion is what we're looking for. Okay? P equals R times B. Portions are unknown. X equals the rate as a decimal. 0.2 or 0.20 times the base, which is 600, and I know that without a calculator, that answer should be, let's see, 10%, it should be 120. 120 people used coupons. Okay, let's look at one more example. Let me turn my page in the book here. Okay, I think we can see this okay. Okay, so my fifth example, again, another word problem. Let's see here. Tom sets aside 15% of his weekly income for rent, of his weekly income for rent. Okay? If he sets aside $150 each week, what is his weekly income? Okay. So as always, we're looking for the rate, we're looking for the base, and we're looking for the portion, because those are the three elements of our percentage formula. We can see clearly the rate is 15%. The rate is the percent. We know we're going to need to convert this to its decimal, so we know that 15%, we drop the percentage sign, put it over 100. 15% is equal to 15 out of 100. We know this is a division problem, so this is 15 divided by 100, and we know that means when you divide by 100, you move the decimal 2 places. To the left, it's here, go 1, 2, and the rate of 15% is equivalent to the decimal of 0.15. Okay, 150, is it the base or the portion? Well, let's see. He sets aside 150 each week. Let's see. Oh, we have a word of up here. We can use that. 15% of his weekly income. So his weekly income is the base, is the whole. And is this his weekly income? Well, no. This is the part or the portion he sets aside for rent. The question says, what is his weekly income? We don't know his weekly income. So of his weekly income is of an unknown. And the of points us to the base. So our base is unknown. And we're going to replace that with the letter X, or a letter of your choice. And then we know that $150 is the portion. Okay, this is the portion he sets aside for rent. He hopefully has more money for food, entertainment, etc. Okay, our percent formula is portion equals rate times base. We know the portion is 150. We know the rate is 15%. In the formula, we're going to use it as a decimal, which is 0.15. We don't know the base, so we'll put the letter X in for that and solve for X. Okay, we need to divide both sides by 0.15. 0.15 divided by 0.15 is 1, and 1 times X is X. We'll divide both sides by 0.15, and 150 divided by 0.15. I did this ahead of time, so I'll just do it. 150 divided by 0.15 is 1,000. So we have $1,000 because we're looking for a weekly income, and we know it's in dollars. Okay, so Tom sets aside 15% of $1,000. He sets aside 150. What is his weekly income? It's $1,000, and that makes sense. He sets aside a portion of his weekly income for rent, and he uses the rest of his weekly income, as I said earlier, for food, for entertainment, maybe for gas, and that type of thing. So there you have it. Again, what really matters here, as we've seen several times, is recognizing that you have a formula, okay, and what you have to first figure out what these pieces, what numbers go with which letter, and what is your unknown. And the other important piece in this formula is that your rate is going to either be used as a decimal, or is going to be if the answer is the rate, it's going to come out as a decimal. So if you're going to use it, you need to change it to its decimal form. If you're solving for it, you get a decimal answer that then needs to be multiplied by 100 to get the percentage.